Australian Open Life. We tell stories, and our story is tennis. And the story around the tennis world is we are mere hours away from round one, Wimbledon 2023 at the All England Lawn Tennis and Croquet Club. It is we're coming to you live from our salubrious production studios in Melbourne, Australia, where it is a balmy 9 degrees. The temperature has risen in the last couple of hours. But over in old Blighty, where it's just ticking over to 2 a.m. On their Monday morning, it's 14 degrees Celsius, but the humidity is 72%, and a lot of Poms will be having a lot of trouble sleeping, not because of the humidity, because they're all hot under the collar, because they got beaten in the second Ashes test at Lords, or was it Headingley, and hot under the collar in the it was Lords, because it was in the long room, where a few of the Poms got so hot under the collar. 3 of them have been banned today. Can you believe it? They're banned for a little while from their memberships being suspended because they were having words, they were having verbals at the Australian players as they passed through the long room on their way for a Vegemite sandwich during the lunch break after they ran out Johnny Bairstow in very dubious circumstances. But that's not why we're here today. We are here for this. So there you go. That's not what I want. This is what I want. Oh my goodness. So we're looking at the although it's the thumbnail says preview wildcards. We're also we're basically looking at the preview of the qualifiers. So are we going to muck around? No, we're not. So we are looking at the results. I'm looking for the results of there we go, qualifying day 4, Thursday the 29th of June. Let's bring up that for you because we want to bring you as much interesting information as we can for you. So we'll be going through this. That is not what I want. Oh dear. Just one second. We appreciate your patience as we deal with this. So what I want to bring you up is the schedule results for Wimbledon. No, that's not what I want. That is not what I wanted. Let's do this. Just change this up slightly. Oh dear. I just want to go quietly through, show you that the draw for Wimbledon qualifying has come to an end, and we'll bring this over now and bring you up the draw for the qualifying has been completed. And the reason I'm bringing this up is because we just want to give you an example of the differentiated type of content that we want to show you here on this Australian Open Life. So just to explain what we're going through in this particular presentation, this live stream, this episode, we're going to talk purely about the Australians. apologies for everybody else around the globe. We've already been through the men's wildcards this morning. We've done a separate presentation episode about the women's side of the draw, the WTA Tour, the women's wildcards. As expected for home Grand Slam, no surprises that the bulk of the wildcards were handed out to British players. So being based in Melbourne, Australia, Wise Words Media produces this Australian Open Life. We're a boutique, bespoke production house, creative production house in Melbourne, Australia. We focus on the Australian Open, but we've opened up and finally got up and running to test out some different and innovative formats of our content, because we want to be reactive and dynamic and expand our coverage to bring you more stories that won't often appear on the mainstream media. And you could find all this info yourself. Let's be honest, we haven't got a monopoly or a speciality or intellectual property rights over a lot of this information. It's all that out there in the public domain. But to find this, you got to go through so many apps and websites on your iPads, your iPhones. I don't know what you find your tennis content on, whether it's news or whatever. There's so many different pundits, so many different commentators, so many different streams and smart TVs. You get the idea. Well, let us do all the hard work for you. We know where to find it. We know how to package it up, and we know how to bundle it so that it's there for your enjoyment. And you can see there this page. Why isn't this interactive? It's just one challenge after another. But anyway, you get the idea. We don't necessarily need to stick with this scoreboard, but you can see qualifying third round that all those matches completed, and winning the third round after 3 wins in qualifying. All those winners will go through to the main draw. But what we want to highlight in this particular stream, this live stream presentation, we want to talk about the Australians. And so let's swap over to a different visual dynamic, and let's go through them. So first of all, we're going to go through the qualifiers who didn't make it, the Australian qualifiers who didn't make it. We're going to start off with the women because that's only polite. So we had 2, 4, 6, we had 7 Australians go into the first round of qualifying. And so let's see who didn't make it through. We saw Arina Rodionova, well-known Australian tennis player. She's a naturalised Australian. She went out in the first round qualifying, and also going out in the first round qualifying was Kimberly Birrell, who I think from memory she got a wild card into qualifying at this year's Open, possibly last year's as well, and making it through their first round matches, but being defeated in the second round. Unfortunately, was a couple of players that we're hoping can get some traction and move up the rankings. Priscilla Hon lost. Jamie Forless, my goodness, she's got so much promise, and unfortunately she also bowed out. And into the third round, there was just 3 Australians remaining, and unfortunately one of them just could not get the job done in the third round, Olivia Gadecki, and winning through their all 3 matches to get a spot in the main draw. And 3 cheers for Storm Hunter, who got married last year, I think it was, the Tasmanian. And also a very well-known name, the naturalised Australian. She married Luke Saville. No prizes for guessing. The Ukrainian Daria Saville, now a naturalised Australian. So 2 Australian women only in the ladies' side of the draw this year, which is a bit disappointing, to be honest, because our Australian women, they did very well in the months coming after Ash Barty's retirement. But for a while there, the Australian women were actually showing up the men. And speaking of which, we move on to the men's singles, qualifying. So we had, in the first round, we had 3 losers. And we'll start off with the one that really, really, really sucks. Let's be honest. Classy Tanasi Kokonakis. He was the number 2 seed in the qualifying rounds. and he had a tough draw by all accounts, and unfortunately he couldn't even get past the first round, losing there, which is really bad luck because he was in there with a shout, well and truly into the got absolutely done cold with a couple of tight tie breaks there, and the same goes for another name we'll mention later on. Alex Bolt also bowed out. He's been having a great couple of years over his journey of recent times. Unfortunately, couldn't get through this year. From memory, he did get through to the third round, I think it was. Am I right? Please let me know in the comments and join the conversation. The other Australian player, not that well known to me anyway, Dane Sweeney, and he also lost his first round qualifying match. And moving into the second round, we only lost one of our Australian players, the Australian Open doubles champion of 2023, Rinky Hijikata, went out in the most devastating of circumstances in his second round match. The closest, tightest tie breaks you will ever see. He won the first set and went down screaming. Both the second and the third set, he went so close. Unfortunately, James Duckworth had a nice win in his opening round match, but he couldn't carry on. The Australian journeyman getting into the back end of his career, he also lost in the second round. And the third round, we saw the exit of Mark Polmans. He's a really good performer, having got through qualifying for the Australian Open when he was given a wild card entry and also a qualifying round entry he got through in recent years. But the men's side of the draw for the Australians actually looks pretty decent. So headed up by Alex de Minaur, who was a finalist at Queen's the other week. He's in good shape, trying to maintain a ranking in the ATP Tour in the mid-teens. I think he's ranked about 18 at the moment after Queen's, where he lost to Carlos Alcaraz. Max Purcell, it's great to see him continuing his rise up the singles rankings. He's been a bit of a double specialist over the last couple of years, and he's also, and you should know this if you're if you call yourself a tennis fan, he's a doubles champion, and he's also a doubles finalist at Grand Slam level. He teamed up with was it Jason Kubler? No, it was it Alex Bolt or James Duckworth? I can't remember, but he was a finalist at the Australian Open in 2022, and he came up. Him and I think it was James Duckworth maybe. They came up against the Special Ks, and they lost that Australian Open title to the Special Ks, Kokkinakis and Kyrgios. And then last year at Wimbledon, Max Purcell and James Duckworth, I'm pretty sure it was James Duckworth, but correct me if I'm wrong, they won the Wimbledon doubles title in the best of circumstances. So well done, Max. Great to see you kicking on. Jason Kubler, good to see him in the main draw. Another quiet achiever, getting into his late 20s, Jordan Thompson. He is a serious player, and nobody on the ATP Tour takes him lightly. He is a gritty player, and I wouldn't be surprised to see him get into the second week. So fingers crossed for him. Alexei Popyrin, that's fantastic to see Alexei there. He's been breaking through into the top 100 over the last 18 months. We first featured Alexei in our wildcard series for the 2021 Australian Open, and it's great to see him kicking on. He had a self-confessed, he was a bit self-critical in a professional way about his own mentality after his breakthrough last year. He did very well. I think he got to the third round of the Australian Open, but didn't kick on throughout the rest of the year, and he attributed that merely down to just having to mature a bit more, and by maturing I mean as a tennis professional, the mentality that he takes onto the court to get through those tight, difficult matches. not immature in a way that he's out at the nightclubs. Chris O'Connell, Chris O'Connell reminds me of Wayne Arthurs, reminds me of Peter Doohan, who beat Boris Becker, sent Boris Becker packing in the first round all those years ago, in the 90s, I think it was. Chris O'Connell, a similar type of player, a good tennis professional at ATP level. Unlikely, I don't see Chris O'Connell breaking into the top 50 anytime soon, but that's not putting him down. That's just merely a reflection of how I see his career so far. And of course, finishing off the last Australian in the men's draw, Alexander Vukic, and he is also one to watch. So we're going to take a short, keep mixing up the footage there for you. First matches, and we're focusing in this episode on the Australians. We're based in Melbourne, Australia. We're all about the Australian Open, so it makes sense to just have a look at the Australians and who they're going to face in their first round matches. So we've got all the details here. So, but before we get into that, please help us grow the channel. This is the first time we've tried these live stream presentations. We are trying to offer a dynamic, reactive content in as real time possible throughout this Grand Slam tournament, that we can skill ourselves up and continue with our usual content, which all the footage, we own the footage, the intellectual property, the proprietary rights to our own footage, and we like to keep using it, and we'll be the plan is to shoot new footage through the Melbourne Park area leading into Australian Open 2024. But there's no reason why we can't experiment with this radio-style, audio-only commentary, which, of course, will also go into our podcast. You can find that on the Acast platform if you're into podcasts. And it's just merely a duplicate of our audio from all of our episodes here. But to grow the channel, we need your help. We don't need your money. Although we offer niche content. We like talking about wildcards and qualifiers. We like bringing stories that you will never usually see in the mainstream media or even other dedicated tennis content producers, whether it's video or audio. They usually like to focus on the players up at the top echelon, the top of the rankings. We like to tell the stories of the people who are fighting to maintain a place in the top 100 or fighting their way through the top 100 to the top 400 and going to far-flung places to do that, because they're sometimes the more interesting stories, those players, and we like to feature them to offer something different. So let's get on to... let's take a break, and let's come back after the break, and we'll go through and finish up afterwards once we see what the Australians are facing in their first round matches on day 1 and day 2 at Wimbledon, starting Melbourne time tonight. And welcome back to this Australian Open Life. This is our third chapter of today's presentation, the wildcards and the qualifiers, and focusing on the Australians. and we're going to finish up with looking at which of the Australians is lining up tonight, Monday the 3rd of July, as Wimbledon rolls out, and also tomorrow, continuing with the first round matches. And this is my favourite part of every Grand Slam as a tennis fan, is the first 3 to 4 days of week one. There is so much going on. It's so much fun keeping track of who's progressing, who's not progressing, all the action on the outside courts, outside the main courts, the stadium courts. And that's where we like to go at the Australian Open. You can see from some of our hero shots there that we like to get around to see all the places around a tournament at Melbourne Park for the Grand Slam. The sights and sounds that you often don't see off the broadcast there. So while those hero images are running through behind the scenes there, let's have a look at the draw, starting with the women, and we're focusing only on the Australians because we're based in Melbourne, so we want to see how these guys and girls are lining up. So let's actually just look at day one, the schedule, how it's been set out by the crusty old gents at the Lawn Tennis and Croquet Club of England. And the first match, there's 2 matches at 8 o'clock tonight. So you're going to have to, if you're a tennis fan, you've got a pretty hard choice if you just want to follow the Australians, because at 8 o'clock, there's 2 games at 8 o'clock, one on court 9, one on court 3, both men's singles first round. The first match, Jordan Thompson of Australia versus Brandon Nakashima of America. And that is a danger match. I'm putting that down as a danger match. Jordan Thompson is unseeded. Brandon Nakashima is unseeded. But Brandon Nakashima, he is no bunny. So don't think that Jordan Thompson is up against some just some wet behind the ears American player straight out of the college system. No way known. Brandon Nakashima knows his way around the court. So Jordan's got his work cut out for him. So hopefully we'll see him through in straight sets that he even if they're tight sets. But Jordan Thompson will be made to work by the American. And on court 3, Max Purcell. Well, why not get the tough matches out of the way? Let's be honest. Because Max Purcell is up against the number 7 seed, Andrei Rublev, if you don't mind. So, Max, all the best. That's all I can say. But from my point of view, the saving grace is the fact that Max has made it into the main draw. Let's just see what his ranking is at the moment. Actually, because I was just about to move on to the next match. But I haven't been keeping up with Max lately. I'm going to be honest. Let's see where he's ranked at the moment. Yeah, 64. He's going very nicely. Thank you very much. So Max, he is a character. And as far as his tennis goes, well, what sort of confidence would you have winning the Wimbledon doubles last year and being a Grand Slam doubles finalist only 6 months earlier at the Australian Open? So Max, I don't think Andre, he'll be taking in a very strong winning mentality into that match. So this and our first, we've only got 3 girls, or is it 2 girls in the ladies' side of the draw. So going back to court 9. Hopefully Jordan Thompson will create a winning atmosphere on court 9 with his early match. But the match straight after Jordan Thompson on court 9 in the ladies singles is Storm Hunter, who won through qualifying. And we've already talked about her getting through qualifying. She won 3 matches to get through. And she is unseeded, of course. And she is also playing an unseeded player from China, Wang Jinyu. So, look, I'm not going to do any research on the fly about the Chinese player, but I can tell you that having featured a match in our presentation yesterday where the Chinese player Xishang Bai defeating the British player in straight sets. Jody Brogan in straight sets in front of her home crowd. The Chinese players, there's not much nuance in their game, is my outlook on it, and that doesn't make them any less effective. So Storm Hunter really needs to be on her game from the very opening set, serve and game. So the final match coming up at 11:15. That Storm Hunter match, by the way, at 10 o'clock tonight, Melbourne time. And on the east coast of Australia, if you're not in Melbourne, at 11:15 p.m. tonight, Melbourne time, Alexander Vukic is unseeded, and he goes up an unseeded German player, Daniel Altmaier. And that is again on court 9. Oh, well, there you go. So the Australians need to make court 9 their own and turn it into a home and make it their home ground, home court, and turn it into a Davis Cup type tie, a Davis Cup tie-like atmosphere. So no doubt the Australian fans, once they roll into the All England Lawn and Tennis and Croquet Club, they'll be decked out for the day with their takeaway Vegemite sandwiches and a couple of cans of Foster's, and no doubt they'll set up for those guys and Storm Hunter on. So just finishing off, we've got 5 matches the next day on day 2, featuring the remaining Australians. So we'll finish up with these, and that'll do us for this particular episode. And local time rolling around to 11:30 the morning of the 3rd of July 2023. So day 2 at Wimbledon, which is tomorrow night Australian time on the East Coast. So we've got at 8 o'clock, we've got 2 Australians featuring. The court yet to be confirmed, but both matches will be starting at 8 o'clock local Australian time. Katie Bolter, who was granted a wild card into the Wimbledon tournament this year. She's unseeded, of course, and she's up against Daria Saville. Daria Saville, she's an interesting character as a tennis player. For me, she runs a bit hot and cold. She has got some kind of game on her racket, but the mentality, she's just, I don't know what it is that makes me think this is a danger match for her. Katie Bolter's in some really nice form. We had a look at her lead-up tournaments to the qualifying rounds of Wimbledon. Katie Bolter has performed pretty well. I think she had a tournament victory from memory. So, Daria, you just need to be on your game there, and hopefully you'll get through. But it was interesting watching the qualifying rounds for Wimbledon, those 3 rounds over 4 days, that I didn't see a whole lot of homegrown support where they were shoulder to shoulder, packed out, cheering on the local players. So maybe Daria, hopefully some Australian supporters will be there and drown out the locals and get you through. Starting at 8 o'clock, also the same time, the Swiss player Dominic Stricker, he's up against Alexei Popyrin. Again, a good match for the Australian, being unseeded. His opponent also unseeded, and we hope he can get through because the Swiss player, no doubt, in the top 100. But Alexei also getting traction that he's making the top 100 on the ATP Tour, his home as well. And the one that we all really care about is the 15th seed, Alex de Minaur, coming off the Queen's Club tournament on grass as a finalist, performed very well, and this guy is all about grit and hard work and lots of running, and chases down everything. He's got a very quiet demeanour, very professional the way he goes about his work, doesn't look for the limelight, doesn't make excuses, and you will see him give his all every single time against any opponent. And on this occasion, the opponent on the other side of the net is Belgian, and his name is Kimmer Kopperjans. And the court for all these matches that we're highlighting right now, they're yet to be confirmed. They're all first-round matches, so best of luck to Alex de Minaur. We hope he gets off to a real flyer, and we know that he's in great form, and didn't perform so well at the French Open at Roland Garros. I think he got rolled in the second round, or was it the first round? But the mentality of this kid, now that he's heading into the age of 22, 23, 24, he's only going to get better with experience, and he's got the chops to go into week 2 of any Grand Slam. He's just got to put it together on the day. And get over those hurdles of the higher, later rounds. The second last match we're going to look at is Christopher O'Connell. He will also start at 8 o'clock. So, boy, if you're an Australian tennis fan, you've got some hard choices ahead of you. And you can't even flip a coin because there's four matches starting at the same time. Now, there's a Serbian, Hamad Medjevic. He's going to face off against Christopher O'Connell. Both players unseeded, so that can only be a good thing for Christopher O'Connell. But you cannot take any player lightly in the first round of any Grand Slam. Doesn't matter whether they're seeded, low ranking. You've just got to treat every opponent with the greatest of respect, because we see so many times unseeded, low ranking players getting the better of the higher profile players, the better perform players. If you're not switched on mentally, or if your game is just slightly off, and we saw it in the qualifiers with Anna Brogan playing the Chinese player. Anna Brogan, there was nothing wrong with the way she went about her match, but she just wasn't on it. So good luck, Christopher O'Connell, who's now starting to become a familiar face in the first rounds of Grand Slams around the traps. And the final match is Jason Kubler. And with his breakthrough Grand Slam win as a doubles tennis player with Rinky Hijikata earlier this year, there's no reason why this guy can't flourish as a singles player. Now that he's getting his body sorted out, and he's up against another player. Both players unseeded in this match, also starting at 8 p.m. There you go, 5 Australians playing at the same time on day 2. And Hugo Humbert from France, and that name rings a bell. So, so Jason, if you're listening, and you shouldn't be, not to me anyway, but if you were listening, I'd say put your head down and get through this match as quick as possible. So there you go. That is the Australians, and one of the things about being an Australian sports fan, as Wimbledon rolls out, you get used to each year. You get used to a fairly heavy toll of defeats in the first couple of days. So that's not to put a negative spin on anything. It's just me merely reiterating that we wish these guys and girls all the best in their opening rounds. And come what may, that's how it'll play out, whether they get through or not. And we hope they do, because we love staying up late watching these matches. We love reading about their success the next morning. That's all part of the fun. So thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. Drop us any kind of interaction. Drop us a like or a comment or a subscription. Or even if you feel like spreading the word around on your socials, tell everyone about our socials, This Australian Open Life. We're also got a podcast on the Acast platform, and we know there's an audience out there for this type of content. It's very differentiated, and we're using these live streams to open up the channel to grow the content, present different kinds of formats, and get the word out there about these stories, about all these players, because we like focusing on different kinds of stories about tennis professionals who are going around the edges on the ITF and the Challenger Tours to get into the qualifying draws of the Grand Slams, which then hopefully they end up like the 7 players we've just highlighted, who have all done the hard yards, by the way. And by way of example, Jason Kubler and Rinky Hijikata, Max Purcell, they've all seen they've all seen the back end of a jumbo jet flying around to Kazakhstan and Thailand and Greece and what's that place in Turkey I saw the other day? Bodrum. My goodness, I think I went there when I was a backpacker. So that's it from us. You've been listening to The Bloke Who Walks. This Australian Open Live is produced in Melbourne, Australia by Wise Words Media, and we tell stories, and our story is tennis. So thanks for listening, thanks for watching, and later on today, just before we go, I was just about to hit the stinger. Later on today, probably after lunch, we'll just be announcing the first of our 2 special announcements about player interviews. So there won't be an interview today with a player. We're just going to merely put out a short 5 to 10 minutes explanation via a live stream to let you know what our plans are. So you can look out for these interviews as we hope to keep covering Wimbledon with some of these live streams as the next 2 weeks rolls out, because we've got a really strong niche, and we want to develop the depth of that and player interviews. We know there's a demand for that. Our audience has already given us feedback about that in the past. And so later on today, we'll come back with that. And later on this afternoon, in the late afternoon, we'll come back looking at round 1 overall for all players from all parts of the world for Wimbledon 2023. Thanks for listening, thanks for watching, and we'll chat to you soon.